A microscopic, spontaneous shift in a single molecule structure can permanently erase a life-saving drug from existence. For 2 years, Abbott Laboratories produced Ritonavir, a highly effective HIV medication. Over 240 consecutive lots, their production lines reliably churned out capsules that kept tens of thousands of patients alive. Then, an analyst noticed a problem. A standard batch of clear capsules failed a routine dissolution test. Inside, the medicine had turned into a cloudy white paste filled with millions of microscopic needles. The factory triggered an emergency shutdown. They destroyed the entire infected batch and deep-cleaned the manufacturing line, scouring the equipment to eliminate any trace of contamination. Every subsequent batch transformed into the same useless needles. This was a structural failure that survived even the most aggressive industrial scrubbing. Desperate for a solution, a team of researchers from the Chicago facility packed their bags and flew to their unaffected manufacturing plant in Italy to find a solution. Within days of their arrival, the Italian plant's capsules also began failing the dissolution tests. The original formulation of the medicine had vanished globally. Every factory producing it was failing. It appeared the Chicago scientists had spread the condition simply by walking through the doors of the Italian plant. They were witnessing a highly contagious industrial outbreak where the medicine itself was the patient. The needle-filled pills were chemically identical to the original drug, containing the exact same atoms in the exact same quantities. In the 1830s, chemist Justus von Liebig helped prove that identical atoms behave in radically different ways based purely on how they are arranged. We call this phenomenon polymorphism. It happens when identical molecules stack together to form completely distinct three-dimensional solid crystal structures. You see this in chocolate. A dull chocolate bar and a shiny, crisp chocolate bar share identical ingredients, but they melt differently in your mouth because the crystals inside them are stacked into different structural forms. Just like the variations in chocolate, the strange white needles inside the capsules were simply a different, newly formed polymorph of Ritonavir. The original life-saving drug was known as Form I, while the new, useless needles were labeled Form II. This chart plots the Gibbs free energy of both structures. Form I crystallizes first in a shallow, high-energy valley. Form II sits in a deeper, highly stable energy well. Being so tightly bound, it won't dissolve in the body, making it ineffective. The shift happens through a process called seeding. A single microscopic particle of Form II lowers the activation energy for all the molecules around it. It acts as a template, forcing the Form I structure to collapse and reshape into the more stable Form II. The Chicago scientists unknowingly carried invisible, microscopic seed crystals of Form II on their clothing directly onto the Italian factory floor. The outbreak was simply the laws of thermodynamics asserting themselves. Once that airborne seed hit the production line, the Form I molecules naturally cascaded into their most stable state. Abbott Labs spent months trying to force the drug back to its original state. They heated the Form II crystals, froze them, and added chemical solvents, desperately trying to recreate Form I. It was completely futile. Once nature introduces a more stable polymorph, microscopic seeds permeate the entire manufacturing environment, and sometimes the atmosphere itself. Making the original, less stable form becomes practically impossible. Tens of thousands of patients were left waiting for their medication. Abbott had no choice but to abandon the capsule entirely. They reverted to an older, much less tolerable liquid formulation of the drug just to keep people alive. Billions of dollars in research and development, strict patents, and extreme quality control protocols were instantly rendered void. A spontaneous shift in natural geometry had beaten human engineering. Over 50% of active pharmaceutical ingredients exhibit polymorphism. The spontaneous eradication that hit Ritonavir could strike almost any medication on the market. To bypass the defects and impurities introduced by Earth's gravity, researchers are moving pharmaceutical crystallization into orbit, as seen here on the International Space Station. On Earth, gravity can interfere with the way molecules settle into a lattice, but microgravity removes these constraints. Without the interference of gravity, crystals grow larger and with significantly higher order. These pure seed crystals can then be returned to Earth to impose specific, stable properties onto mass-produced drug formulations that would otherwise be impossible to achieve. We build massive factories and sophisticated supply chains to manufacture our medicine, yet our survival is ultimately dictated by microscopic physical laws that we are only just beginning to master.